What's going on, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to On the Topic Of, which is a series on my YouTube channel every single Friday where I go through a piece of news that's been in the video game news spotlight in the past week or so, and I give my thoughts and opinions on and keep you guys informed along the way. And today we're going to be having a pretty broad discussion about virtual reality, mainly because of the fact that the Oculus Rift was available to be pre-ordered this past Wednesday, and the price point was a little bit higher than people had originally anticipated or originally thought that it would be, and that was pretty outrageous, to be honest with you. And then PlayStation VR had some more news and whatnot, and this is kind of a topic that's been a little bit of a taboo on the channel. I've never really talked about it because I didn't really have faith in the technology, and I'm still kind of shaky on it, but it's gotten to the point where there's so much movement behind the VR movement, I suppose, for lack of a better term. There's so much hype behind this new kind of technology that I have to give my opinion on it. I have to keep you guys informed, and so that is what we're going to be doing today on the Topic Of. So grab some popcorn. It's probably going to be a long one. Grab a drink or whatever, and without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. So we'll go ahead and start off with the big news of the past week, and that is that Oculus Rift, the original quote-unquote VR headset, the one that really got the ball rolling on the virtual reality movement, is going to cost $600 whenever it comes out, and you can actually pre-order that right now. Obviously, $600 is a lot of money. That is a pretty penny. That's not just chunk change that you throw around on the weekend. That is a lot of money that kind of has to be saved for, especially whenever you're in college, whenever you're working a part-time job, whenever you have a family and kids you have to take care of. You can't just throw this money out there like that. And so this is kind of upsetting, especially for those that were planning on purchasing it whenever it was supposed to be costing about $300 to $400, which is what the CEO originally said that it was going to cost whenever it did become available for pre-ordering. Now, I will say that this $600 bundle, so to speak, comes with 2 games and an Xbox One controller. So to break down how much the headset itself actually cost, I'm going to guess that the 2 games cost about $80 and maybe $40 respectively. So the 2 games are Eve Valkyrie and Lucky's Tale. Lucky's Tale looks like something I would never play. It kind of is similar to Banjo-Kazooie. It's kind of a childish game, but it is developed specifically for the Oculus Rift, so there is that if you wanted to kind of experience that game. And I would guess that that would normally retail for about $40. You know, just throwing it out there. We'll just guess that. Eve Valkyrie, on the other hand, looks like, and I'm going to venture and say, a pretty good game. Not necessarily something that I'm going to be really into, but it does look like it could be a $60 game, and assuming that VR games are going to be a little bit more expensive than your standard experience you would buy on a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One, I'm going to venture and say that that one is worth about $80. So you're up to about $120 there. Now, you also get an Xbox One controller within this bundle, so that's about $65 itself. If you want to go ahead and round up with taxes and whatnot, that sounds like about $200 to me. So if you take that $600, you take off $200, you're looking at about a $400 virtual reality experience with the Oculus Rift. Now, what they don't really publicize that much on the website is the kind of PC you are going to have to even run Oculus Rift. And I would break it down, but pretty much what you have to know is that if you are starting out from the base point of having nothing, you have never played a video game before in your life, you were eating saltine crackers and drinking water, you are doing nothing with gaming. If you are starting from that point, to get into Oculus Rift VR, you are going to have to spend probably between I would say $2,000 and $2,500 just to get the bare minimum experience, or at least a mid-tier experience with the Oculus Rift, because you're going to have to buy a really high-end PC and you're going to have to buy that $600 headset bundle that we were just talking about. So now let's talk about PlayStation VR, which in my mind is the common man's VR. This is the general gamer's VR. And so obviously these are the 2 major competitors, because there are other headsets like the HTC Vive, there is the Samsung Gear VR, there is the Google Cardboard if you wanted to count that one, and countless others that I'm sure are in development. But for the most part, whenever it comes down to gaming, you have PlayStation VR and Oculus Rift. So with the PlayStation side of things, it runs on any standard PlayStation 4, which has an install base of 36 million players. Like 36 million PS4s are out there in the world, and they're all compatible with PlayStation VR whenever it does come out. So that's already kind of putting them above Oculus Rift. So taking that into consideration, the headset is supposed to cost at or a little bit under, or maybe even a little bit over, I wouldn't be surprised to see that, the price of a PlayStation 4. So we'll go ahead and round it off to about $400 is what this headset is probably going to cost. Now don't quote me on any of this, because as far as these prices go, it's still kind of up in the air. So $400 will get you the PlayStation VR headset. Now, coming back to that mindset of the guy that's been eating saltine crackers and water and has no video games and never has had any video games, it would take about probably $800 to $850 to get into the PlayStation VR side of things, which makes this a whole lot more appealing than doing this for like $2,000 or $2,500. If you have a family, if you are in college, if you are kind of, strapped for cash, this is a lot more accessible than this. In addition to this, at CES this past week, it was announced that 200 developers are working on content for the PlayStation VR, and over 100 games are actually in development for the PlayStation VR itself, which sounds very impressive, and I have to admit that that's a higher number than I had originally anticipated. However, I think it sounds more impressive than it actually is, because I can't help but wonder how many of those games are specifically tailored to show off what the PlayStation VR can do. And of course, what I mean by that is that think about those games that come with the PlayStation Vita VR cards, the VR cards that come with a 3DS, the stuff that came with a PlayStation Move, or even Wii Sports whenever it first came out. Let's use that example. Whenever the Wii first came out, the motion control stuff was very new. It was something that not a lot of people had seen. If you had played it in a store, that's pretty much the only place you would ever experience something like that. And so whenever you were playing Wii Sports, you kind of got to, feel how the entire thing would go. You were bowling, you were batting, you were playing tennis and whatnot. That was kind of the new experience to try out. That's why they included Wii Sports with almost every Wii that was ever sold. And so if you have those kind of games coming out for PlayStation VR, I can't help but wonder if there are 75 games that are mini games that show off what the headset can do, and 25 games that are actually games that I can actually play for an extended period of time. I can't help but, be curious about how many of these are actually quality experiences. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I'm expecting a Fallout 4 game or several Fallout 4s, maybe even a Call of Duty that's specifically tailored to the PlayStation VR headset. I'm not looking for any of that right out of the gate, but what I am looking for is a unique experience that is my go-to thing whenever I turn on my PlayStation 4. Like right now, whenever I turn on my PS4, I go straight into Star Wars Battlefront. That's just what I am doing right now whenever I play PlayStation. Is there a game that's in development for the PlayStation VR that is going to be my go-to game for months on end? Those are the games that I'm really excited about, not necessarily those little mini games that show off what the thing can actually do. And then of course you have HTC Vive, which is one that has stayed out of the limelight of the gaming industry and the tech industry for the most part, but this is definitely an interesting VR headset because it is the one that has been kind of adopted by Steam as their official headset. And Steam has faith in HTC. I love HTC, I have their phone, I think it's a great phone, but if they make headsets as good as they make phones, that's going to be definitely interesting. But like I said, they partnered with Steam, so that's where the real value for the HTC Vive is going to come into play, because if you have Half-Life 3 on this thing, if you have Portal 3 on this thing, if you have Team Fortress on this headset, that's going to be a huge game changer for a lot of PC guys, and the price point for this one is what's going to be very interesting, because I have a theory that after Oculus Rift announced that theirs is going to cost $600, and the ton of backlash that they got from that kind of forced HTC to go into some kind of boarding room and sit down and be like, okay, so ours was going to cost $800. We can't do that. We can't do that right now. What can we charge for this thing? So I'm guessing this one is going to debut at about $500 and kind of perform as a intermediate level between the PlayStation VR and the Oculus Rift, and I think that there is definitely a good place for that in the gaming industry. Of course, it is partnering with Steam, like I've said previously in the past couple of minutes, so if you take that into consideration, not saying the Oculus is never going to work with anything that's on Steam, I think that would be a terrible business move for all parties, but I definitely think that the HTC Vive experience is going to be tailored to work with Steam, and I think that there's going to be a lot more compatibility with the HTC Vive than there is going to be on the Oculus Rift. At least that's what I'm predicting. So taking this all into consideration, I can definitely see where each individual headset is kind of filling a role, and for the most part, Oculus Rift I have a very bleak outlook for, just because I feel like it's going to go down in history as the headset that started off the virtual reality movement. I feel like it started off this movement that people were looking for virtual reality, they were looking forward to it, and people were really anticipating it, and then whenever they announced that it was going to be at such a high price point, people lost interest, it put a foul taste in the gamers' mouths, and it just kind of died off from there. That's just kind of what I'm anticipating for it, and I'm sure that I'm going to be proven wrong. I'm sure that in years I'll come back and laugh at this video, and I'm sure that it's going to be held against me for years to come, but that's just what I'm getting. That's the vibe I'm kind of taking in at this point in time. Now with the PlayStation VR, that's where stuff gets interesting. That's where I have faith in the virtual reality movement, because this is the common man's VR. This is where the general gamer can get his hands on this new kind of experience, this new way to play. Most people already have a PlayStation 4. It is the most popular console of the new generation. I have one sitting right over there. It is already able to play PlayStation VR, which is where the value comes in for this. For those that are in college, for those that play games, that have time to put all of this money into gaming, this is the one that is most appealing to them, because they can put out $400, $450 and jump right into this new experience and play all these games on the system that they already have. And of course, like I said, there are over 100 games already in development. It's going to be definitely interesting to see how this one shapes up going forward and how it's adopted by the community as a whole. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see how these two shape up in the long run. Now, as far as HTC Vive goes, I'm not really sure where that one is going to end up whenever you are comparing it to the Oculus Rift and the PlayStation VR, but it's either going to go one of two ways. The first way is that it's going to flop completely and Oculus Rift is going to take over the entirety of the PC market after it does have a price drop, or the HTC Vive is going to shine. The technology behind it is going to be incredible because it is being discussed this weekend at CES, so if something major does happen, I'm sure that I will make a video on it. But if the technology is there, if the compatibility with Steam is there, if specific games come out for the HTC Vive that are really appealing to the gamer, then that one could very well overtake Oculus Rift and become the go-to VR headset on PC, and that would definitely be a sight to see. And like I said, I hope the best for Oculus Rift, but at this point in time, with that price point and with the negative backlash from the community, it's looking kind of bleak. Obviously, every couple of years, we have something that's supposed to be the next big thing. That's the phrase that's always thrown around, the next big thing. For instance, whenever the PlayStation Move was announced, this was the next big thing, you know? Everyone was excited to see what the games would be able to do. Obviously, we had the guns and whatnot, all the peripherals and the plastic and all the shitty equipment that we always had, and it turns out that was just a flop. That was a gimmicky thing, and no one ever used it on the PlayStation 3. Then they had the 3D monitor that PlayStation came out with, and you could, you know, put on these glasses and you could have two-player split screen, but the split screen wasn't split. It was literally two different screens in kind of a 3D world, which was cool, but it was still very gimmicky. It was overpriced, and no one really bought it, which is unfortunate because that was kind of the next big thing, and so everyone was let down by it. Now, whenever I first heard about virtual reality, whenever I first heard about Oculus Rift and the PlayStation VR headset and HTC Vive and all of this, I was getting that same kind of vibe. But whenever someone was talking about the 3D monitor or a 3D TV or PlayStation Move or anything like that, even Microsoft Kinect, whenever someone was talking about that, they'd be like, dude, this is it, man. This is the next big thing. And then they'd be like, oh, this is awesome. You know, they'd be talking about all this stuff. And it was always very, oh, okay, you know, that's cool. But with virtual reality, whenever I'm watching interviews with someone that's just gotten out of the PlayStation experience, whenever I first watch interviews with someone that's tried on an Oculus Rift for the first time, it's never, dude, that's it, man, that's the next big thing. It's always like, I was there. Like, that is awesome. That was like virtual reality. This is it. This is the next, like, that's the kind of reaction I'm getting from these people, and that's what gets me excited, and that's what gets me excited to try out this stuff whenever I get the chance to try on one of these headsets for the first time, whenever I get the chance to go to a PlayStation experience or a PlayStation Roadshow and try on a PlayStation VR. It's not necessarily the games, it's not the specs, it's not how the headset looks, it's the fact that the people that have played it are changed by it, and that's what makes me excited for the future of VR. So there you guys have it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, share this video so more people can find the channel. Drop me a like down below. And in the comment section, let me know what you think about VR itself. Are you going to be purchasing a PlayStation VR headset? What do you think about Oculus Rift? Can your PC run Oculus Rift? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And if you are new to the channel or you've never seen any of my other content, I do upload new stuff like 3 or 4 days a week depending on the week, so there's always something new right here on the channel when you drop by to watch some videos. And as always, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for watching this particular video. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.